Well, you guys, it has been a lot leading up to this moment. You have no idea. Just an hour ago, our new website, CandaceOwens.com, which we launched in part so we could live stream just this sort of content, underwent a very aggressive DDoS attack from France. Just last week, by the way, the media tried to paint me adjacent to a school shooter. I'm not kidding. Almost this last-ditch pathetic DDoS attack on my character sent around the world. And of course, there is the legal threat that arrived to me from Élysée Palace. And I guess my question is, what is everybody so afraid of? It certainly cannot be a lie that has warranted this type of panic. Welcome at long last to an incredible series that we've put together for you right here on Candace. All right, you guys, so this episode really is meant to be just an introduction to introduce really the English-speaking world to what has been going on in France, because really, we have no idea. We have had no idea. So let's just start at a place that we can all agree on, okay? Receiving a legal letter from a sitting president of a foreign country is extraordinary. So extraordinary that it may have never happened before in human history, okay? A year ago, when I said that I would stake my entire professional career on the fact that Brigitte Macron, the current First Lady of France, was born a man, there were many people, of course, who did not believe me because that just sounds crazy. But even those people, thanks to Emmanuel Macron's strongly worded letter, which he had his legal team put together and ask me not to publicize, are now starting to pay a little bit of attention. Take this comment from popular Canadian YouTuber and lawyer who goes by Viva Frey. He wrote this under the episode regarding that letter. I was very skeptical at first that Brigitte was a man, but I've got to tell you, Macron's lawyers are really starting to convince me. Legally speaking, it was an implausibly stupid move what they did, okay? While refusing to just plainly state that Brigitte Macron, the current First Lady of France, was indeed born a woman, they used all sorts of tricky language to suggest that they could sue me for defamation over minor errors that I made in my reporting. Okay, essentially, they were not addressing the substance of the claim. Brigitte Macron was born a biological male, but instead attacking things like, you said in an earlier report that a picture from Brigitte's communion was recolorized. This is false. This reporting has caused Brigitte to have mental anguish. Okay. But as I said, their lawyers made a critical mistake because in order to prove defamation, you have to prove that somebody acted in reckless disregard for the truth, that they knew the truth and they made a decision not to publicize it. Instead, they wanted to just publicize lies, which is something that if you guys watch this show, you know that I do not do. I do not engage in it. Quite the opposite. So by sending me a legal letter, they unintentionally provided me with a direct line, a direct link to ask Brigitte Macron and Emmanuel Macron pointed questions. They can't pretend they didn't see our questions, okay? The majority of the questions that we asked them were simply yes or no. Those were the answers that we needed, with the promise that we gave them that if she answered the questions, we would fully report on the facts. So I want to show you some of these very simple 21 questions that we asked Brigitte Macron so that we could use our platform to put an end to her mental anguish, okay? We asked, is the little girl pictured in the communion photograph, allegedly from 1963, the Brigitte Macron that is currently married to President Macron? Did Brigitte Macron ever use the name Veronique? Can you account for all of the children from the Amiens family photograph and their current whereabouts? Did Brigitte Macron physically give birth to 3 children? These are easy questions, guys. Is Brigitte Macron the same person pictured in the Ozier wedding photograph? Did Brigitte Macron ever have a relationship with Veronique Drew? Would you please provide photographs of Brigitte Macron in the 1970s? Would you please provide school photographs of Jean-Michel Trogneau, a person they purport is her brother, and Brigitte Trogneau, preferably together? When did Brigitte Macron first meet President Macron and under what circumstances? What were their respective ages when they met? Did the Macrons have an intimate physical relationship before President Macron turned 18? And if so, at what age did the relationship begin? Have your clients attempted to correct the French version of Wikipedia, which states that regarding Brigitte Macron, quote, the age difference of more than 24 years between the two lovers causes a scandal in the Trogneau family, especially since their relationship could fall under the scope of Article 22727 of the Penal Code, which establishes the offense of sexual assault on a minor. Have your clients initiated legal action against the International Pedophile and Child Emancipation Lobby, which cites Macron's relationship in its publication, Positive Memories, on a list of, quote, positive, loving relationships with children? Like I said, these are pretty simple questions. If you are a person and you are going through mental anguish because people are talking about you being born a biological male, wouldn't you race to answer those questions? Yeah. Well, apparently they simply were not anguished enough to hire. They were anguished enough to hire and pay an American legal firm in DC to send us a 100-page lettered threat, but they simply were not anguished enough or could not muster the energy to answer 21 basic questions to put an end to the scandal. We received no response from them because we knew that we would not receive a response from them because, well, they're lying. They are, in fact, lying to the public about Brigitte Macron's past identity. And a court case would have given us the opportunity to prove it via subpoena power. America is not France. And the state of Tennessee sure as hell isn't Paris. So let me tell you why this story matters worldwide, okay? Because this is not just something that impacts Europe. It has international implications. For example, the unprecedented raid on Donald Trump's residence at Mar-a-Lago over documents that he had taken from the White House. You guys remember that, right? Check out this headline that was in The Guardian. Trump boasted that he had intelligence on Macron's sex life. Inventory of what was seized at Mar-a-Lago caused a transatlantic freakout between Paris and Washington. I'm sorry, what? What could he have stumbled upon about Emmanuel Macron's sex life that would have caused a transatlantic panic? Here's a Rolling Stone headline to the same effect. It reads, Trump bragged that he had, quote unquote, intelligence on Macron's sex life. The FBI seized a document with info on the French president during the Mar-a-Lago raid that has officials in both countries hunting for answers. Oh, okay. Why would you be stressed as a president? What were your tastes? And here's an excerpt from that Rolling Stone article because this really is incredible. Most people don't remember this, okay? It reads, then, of course, the mere revelation of its existence triggered a transatlantic freakout, according to two other sources familiar with the situation and Trump's prior talk about the Macrons' allegedly naughty ways that, quote, not very many people know, only intensified those concerns. Both French and U.S. officials worked to figure out precisely what Trump had on Macron and France's government, and if any of it was sensitive in nature, the sources said. The officials in both nations wanted to know if this discovery signified some kind of a national security breach, or if it amounted to a frivolous but stolen keepsake. Oh, okay. You wouldn't be freaking out unless there was something to be freaking out about and that Trump actually had some intelligence that could ruin things. Now I can remind you guys of the infamous Summer Olympics of 2024. Yeah, just last year, where the entire world watched as drag queens carried the Olympic torch and performed the opening ceremony. The Macrons, in my view, explicitly lied in their legal letter to me when they said that it was not mimicking the Last Supper. They said it was not satanic. Okay, here it is. Here is a side-by-side, because as we unpack this series, you are going to see that do not believe your own eyes is a repeat Macron instruction, okay? There's a Last Supper. On the left, Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, and on the right, there are the Paris Olympics, okay? But even if you really didn't want to believe your own eyes, it would be reasonable to assume that we could at least believe the people who performed in the ceremony, right? The lead performer was a lesbian named Barbara Butch, and following the performance, here's what Barbara Butch posted on Instagram. She wrote, oh yes, the New Gay Testament, with an LGBTQ flag and a fist bump. And she tagged some other people in her community. Yeah, that would register to most people as satanic, an inversion of the New Testament. But after the backlash and after the producers of the Olympics had already confessed to Page Six that it was supposed to be Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, they attempted to backtrack and backpedal and officially claim that actually it was a pagan feast that they were mimicking. What escaped the public at large was the fact that Thomas Jolly, that was the artistic director of the performance, was handpicked to put this ceremony on in the presence of none other than First Lady Brigitte Macron, who went to see him back in 2022 at the premiere of his musical Starmania, which he produced. Emmanuel Macron, according to The Spectator at least, then personally ordered Jolly to outdo the London Olympics. So I want you guys to make no mistake, both he and his quote-unquote wife were both intimately involved with the ceremony. As we unpack the story of Brigitte and Emmanuel, you are going to notice some strange recurring themes. That scandals related to pedophilia and transgenderism, incest, and sexual perversion just keep accidentally following them wherever they go. Parking aside the fact that even if you believed that Brigitte Macron was a woman, and I'm telling you she isn't, and you won't believe that by the time that we're done with this series, you would have to accept that her love story with Emmanuel Macron is completely unpalatable, okay? It begins when she was a 39-year-old drama teacher at La Providence School, and she saw a 14-year-old boy, Emmanuel Macron, perform in a play, and that was it. That just completely swept her off her feet. Okay, apparently a love story for the ages. By the way, that was one of many first red flags for me. A 14-year-old boy and a 39-year-old woman. I'm sorry, this is not a thing. Okay, I'm 35. Do you know what a 14-year-old boy looks like? Boys don't even complete puberty until they're about 16 years old. There's nothing manly, nothing attractive. They look like children. That's what they look like. They look like children. Boys mature at a slower pace than girls mature. Even when you hear the stories of a woman and they call her a cougar, they don't go after 14-year-old boys. They like a young Brad Pitt from Troy looking guy in his early 20s, okay? Not a 14-year-old boy. So that registered to me as remarkably strange. I don't know. Truly, I can't even think of a cultural example of a woman who was in her mid-30s, about to turn 40, that found a 14-year-old boy attractive. You guys can help me find one, okay? So once the couple moved into Élysée Palace, that's the French White House, weird scandals began to follow them. For example, for whatever reason, it became known to the public that Brigitte Macron, who fancies herself something of a designer, wanted to install an erect penis with golden balls to become the new spire for the Notre Dame Cathedral. Yes, you heard me correct. Here is a headline in the Daily Mail to back that up. Brigitte Macron backed an erect phallus with golden balls as the new spire for the Notre Dame Cathedral, France's former culture minister claims. This is not a conspiracy. The former Minister of Culture was Roselyne Bachelot. She openly admitted that Brigitte Macron adversed her modern designs in January of 2021. That's a theme. Brigitte likes freaky art. That's just what she's into. Just like when they moved into the Élysée Palace, she got right to work redesigning things that had meaning to her. Art has meaning. Just one example, she handpicked a carpet from an artist known as Claude Levesque, okay? This is a photo we're showing you right now of that hand-picked carpet. She really wanted to get involved, and that piece was known as Black Sun, okay? Regarding Claude Levesque, people started pointing out that there were a lot of pedophile undertones in his work, a work of a man that through various commissions had sort of become this quasi-official artist of the French Republic. Le Monde, and just so you know, Le Monde, you're going to hear me speaking about that a lot, that is the French equivalent to the New York Times. This is what they wrote about Claude Levesque's lifestyle. Quote, Claude Levesque refers to the teenagers around him as his godchildren, nephews, assistants, and even sons. These cuddly toys and teddy bears that he carries around the world, that he takes out for meals, and that he displays in every nook and cranny of his two homes were, according to the artist in his interviews, quote, given to him by friends, memories that were too intimate to talk about. His obsession with the world of childhood is seen as an quote-unquote artistic sublimation, the fantasy of someone who is far more at ease with children than with the world of adults. The visual artist describes his sexual tastes and his relationships with young boys as, quote, linked to libertarian thought and the punk movement. If you look closely, allusions to these forbidden relationships are found throughout his works. Here, there would be a quotation from Michel Tournier's Le Roi de Aulnays, which is a book that is about a guy. It has a lot of pedophile overtones, just so you know. Over there, a reference to the Night of the Hunter with Robert Mitchum as a diabolical preacher stalking two innocent children, plus countless allusions to Visconti's cult film Death in Venice, where a beautiful teenager, Tadzio, is idolized by an aging man. Other allusions are more cryptic, such as this press clipping that appears in his book Holidays in France. And it alludes to Jackie Kaisermertz, a pedo-criminal school teacher who went on a rampage, this is a true story, in Nièvre, that's a French town, from 1970 to 1997 with more than 70 victims. He was eventually sentenced in 2001 to 18 years imprisonment. That's the kind of stuff that Claude Levesque likes to put into his work and into his books. Allusions to pedophilia. So you guys are going to be a little bit shocked right now to learn that Brigitte Macron eventually had to remove his carpet from the office. You see, there's a picture of Macron sitting on top of his carpet, and they had to remove it in 2021 because the attraction to his artwork became a little bit embarrassing when multiple legal procedures began against Claude Levesque for statutory rape. That came to light in 2021. And ironically, in 2023, the artist Claude Levesque was indicted for the rape of minors when two brothers from that little town in Nièvre said that they were sexually assaulted when they were teenagers from him. But no doubt, guys, that's just another oopsie. It's probably just an oopsie from Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron, who knew that the artist who kept putting pedophilic stuff in his artwork was actually going to be charged for the rape of a minor, right? That's crazy. I should mention to you now, by the way, that Emmanuel Macron, who was at first inaugurated in May of 2017, had his presidential portrait done. Okay, that's it. And chose an interesting book to include in the background. A book by an author known as André Gide, a self-admitted pederast. Okay. Now, a pederast, if you are not familiar with that term, according to Merriam-Webster, is a man who engages in sexual activity with a young boy. Okay. If you're wondering, how does that differ from pedophilia? The answer is that pederasts are adult men specifically who are into only little boys specifically. So it doesn't include girls. Pedophiles can be into either as long as they are minors. So André Gide was a self-admitted pederast. He was into little boys. Which book did Emmanuel Macron select for his portrait? A book from André Gide entitled The Fruits of the Earth in English, okay? In French, it's Les Nourritures Terrestres. Forgive my terrible pronunciation there. So that's him. That's the book that he chose. If you're wondering what it's about, the book is about how you should flee your family, how you should flee rules. Gide's work was autobiographical in content, all right? He was inspiring a younger generation of boys to flee tradition because he did that. He felt that he did that when, as an adult, he went to Algeria, which was then a French colony, to have sexual experiences with Muslim boys. So in 1894, when he was 24 or 25, he traveled to North Africa. He met up with Oscar Wilde and Oscar Wilde's homosexual lover, Lord Alfred Davis. These are elites. Let's just be clear. We're talking about elites. And then he came back to his country of France, and he felt that he had gone through a sexual awakening. He accepted his homosexuality, and he embraced his proclivities, saying no to the stifling conventions that told him that, no, you shouldn't have and be attracted to little boys, okay? Now, I'm actually familiar with André Gide because I was forced to read his book, The Immoralist, at university. And yes, it is about traveling to Algeria, and which obviously is autobiographical in content. He admitted that he did this, traveling to Algeria, and it is about having sex with Muslim little boys. That's what the book was about, okay? Now, in case you're thinking rationally, let's play both sides of this thing, right? Maybe Emmanuel Macron didn't know that the book was there. Maybe it was just some dumb assistant who grabbed it. Who knows why it would be in their like Oval Office, but maybe it was just some assistant who grabbed it and put it there. Nope. You'd be wrong if you're thinking that, so stop thinking that, okay? Emmanuel Macron has never hidden his affection for André Gide. He has spoken about it multiple times, okay? He even once gave an interview to a literary critic, Jerome Garcin, and Macron said this. He said, and I quote, "Gide shows me the path that leads from the cerebral to overflowing sensuality." Okay. Now, you see, there was just one journalist that I could find that had the courage to aggressively call out the book choice of the president in his portrait. And that journalist's name is Helene Devic, okay? Here's what she said. I'm going to pull up her quotation here. She said, Andre Gide? To say what? Clumsiness and error are inconceivable in a setting crafted to remain in the historic iconography of the country. Inevitably, someone in the presidential entourage, if not the head of state himself, has read Andre Gide's autobiography, Si le Grand n'est mort, where he tells the story of little Muhammad. He wrote, quote, how handsome he was, half naked under his rags, black and slender as a demon. The writer admires, quote, the slenderness of this child's body, the gracefulness of his bare legs peeking out from under his baggy pants. He describes how he sodomizes the child to his own exhaustion. 2 years later, he watches his friend Daniel sodomizing Muhammad, now a teenager. What message did the young and dashing president of the French Republic send with this photo posted on the walls now of school town halls? What should we understand? That pedo criminals can rest easy? Fantastic questions, Helene. What should we understand from the fact that Andre Gide is still taught, by the way, in American classrooms, and that he was awarded a post-mortem Nobel Prize in Literature? I guess we should just understand, oopsie, right? Oopsie again for the Macron couple. This just keeps happening. Then there is the case of Olivier Duhamel, who is a former French member of the European Parliament, unbelievable power broker, tippity top, doesn't get much higher than this. He's at the tippity top of French circle of elitists and one of the first to get behind Emmanuel Macron. When you read stories about him, he's like so powerful that at these elite clubs where you're required to wear a tie, he's the guy that can walk inside and doesn't have to pay attention to the dress code, okay? So he got behind Emmanuel Macron right away, attended several campaign meetings, and would be passing notes to Macron. And when Macron qualified for the second round of the presidential election, he celebrated next to Macron at a restaurant called La Rotonde. And after Emmanuel Macron won, he used his magazine, which is called Pouvoirs, to compare Emmanuel Macron to General Charles de Gaulle. So again, this magazine is owned by Olivier Duhamel. He was just doing the press and the propaganda on how amazing Emmanuel Macron was, defending him against any media critics. Olivier Duhamel would also boast openly about his meetings at the Élysée Palace, and it was also reported in Paris Match that he gave Emmanuel Macron advice on how to navigate public scandals, particularly one which involved Macron's deputy chief of staff, a guy named Alexander Bonella, in the summer of 2018. Duhamel was also present at a lunch where Brigitte Macron handpicked Macron's prime minister. Again, we'll get into that. Brigitte Macron handpicking the prime minister. Why was it Brigitte? Which led the public to asking questions about what Brigitte and Duhamel had in common, how they knew each other. So I have to imagine that for Emmanuel Macron, it really came as another oopsie for the couple when in January of 2021, Olivier Duhamel's stepdaughter, a woman named Camille Coucher, published a book and publicly accused him of having sexually abused her twin brother, Antoine Kushner, when he was 13 or 14 years old. Le Monde, again, that's the equivalent to the French New York Times, were the ones who broke the story. Now, according to Camille's book, which was entitled in English, The Big Family, La Famille Grande, the rapes took place at Olivier Duhamel's summer residences, one called Mas de Genèse d'Or in Sonnery-sur-Mer, forgive me for this terrible French, where apparently generations of the Duhamel clan had entertained basically the cream of the crop of the French intelligentsia, whose morals were now being exposed publicly by her. One of the publications, Le Nouvel Obs, another publication, France, wrote, quote, in the evenings, kids sometimes have to act out sex scenes in front of their parents. This is what was taking place at Duhamel's residences. They go on to write, one evening, the teenagers are asked to tell how they lost their virginity. On another, mothers dress their 12-year-old daughters in provocative outfits, smear them with lipstick, and send them off to dance with men that are 30 years older. Paris Match wrote, quote, hardly anyone is offended to see Camille, then just a teenager, being asked to simulate an orgasm in front of the adults. Now, regarding this, you're probably wondering, was he brought to justice? Or maybe you're wondering, hey, maybe she's not telling the truth, right? Maybe she just made it all up for attention because this is a powerful guy. Oh, lucky for Olivier Duhamel, the statute of limitations had already expired, so he was never brought to justice. But in mid-April of that same year, it was reported in the French media, and you can fact check this on Wikipedia, that he admitted to it. He admitted that he sexually abused his stepson. I don't know, guys. Just another oopsie in the Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte Macron orbit that keeps coming up. Now, I am giving you not even the surface of what it is that I know about this couple, okay? This literally is an introduction because everything that I am saying, I know the English world has never heard, which should make you go, what the hell is wrong with our media? What the hell is wrong with our media that when I began to try to report on this story, they came for me? They started painting me as Adolf Hitler. They started canceling me, demands for me to get fired. I was fired. It was in March that I first reported of last year on the story, and it was in March that same exact year that I got fired from my former employer. And nonstop have been fighting the press since. And guy, by the way, you should know that there is this strange case of what happens to every journalist who tries to touch this story. First and foremost, Isabella Ferreira, I think I mentioned this on a past episode. She was one of the Jean Gilets, the yellow vest people who began prodding into the story as an independent journalist, happened upon some huge information pertaining to the relationship of Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte. But then she was found dead. She was found dead floating in a river. And her friends said that she didn't kill herself, but the media said she most definitely did, that she must have slipped and fell after she took a lot of pills. So that kind of stuff happens, I guess. Then there is Natasha Ray, who the media has been lying on, attempting to ruin her entire life. She has cancer. She was an independent journalist. This is the one that Brigitte Macron notoriously sued. And similarly to what they sent him a letter, was not over the substance of the claim that Brigitte Macron was born a biological male, but rather pertaining to errors of misspeak when she spoke to Amandine Roy, who was similarly sued for invasion of privacy. Okay. And then there's one man still left standing, and that is Xavier Poussard. Xavier Poussard is the person that I am so honored to introduce to you guys on Monday. He is the journalist who has been diligently working on this, whose work I am repeating, really. I feel blessed that he even selected me to be able to bring this to the public, that he trusted me with this story. Xavier Poussard has been working on this for 8 years and has given up everything, including his home country of residence, because, well, how did they come after Xavier Poussard? They looked into his finances, found who was funding his publication, and decided that it would be a really good time to go through a 2-year audit. One of the government's preferred ways of harassing someone is getting the IRS out there and finding the crime in any way possible. And so Xavier Poussard was dropped from the people that were investing in him. He had to move his family. His mother's house was searched just to scare them and to intimidate them and to let them know that they are watching them. And to this day, Xavier Poussard, the man who originally dropped the 6-part series, exposing the fact that Brigitte Macron was lying about her identity, has never been sued for defamation because his work has been thorough. And he has now brought me up to date on his work, and I will be just as thorough in this assessment, you guys. Everyone is paying a consequence, and the purpose of them having sent me a letter was certainly not because they thought that I was suddenly going to drop this story, but maybe because they were trying to intimidate me to think that they would do those things, that they would come for me and they would come for defamation, because they are a part of an older world where these insidious people had the sort of power to really traumatize, to go after, and to destroy people that hit at their real power. And make no mistake, Brigitte Macron and Emmanuel Macron come from a circle and a syndicate of real power, old money power. But it is a new world, okay? And I am telling you that if we do not have more courage across the world, and all across the world, we're going through this awakening to stand up to these freaks, okay? To stand up to people who think that they can ordain to go through scandal after scandal after scandal of pedophilia, to not have to answer for their bizarre background and the things that they are into, to not even have to answer basic questions about their biological sex. if we do not have the courage to stand up to these people who put pederasts on their desks to laugh at us as they take their presidential portraits because they deem themselves to be the untouchables, what world will we be leaving for our children? I have now 3 sons. And so I say it and I mean it, that I really hope they file that lawsuit. I really hope that Brigitte Macron ordains himself so bold as to arrive into the great state of Tennessee with all of his perverted thoughts about little boys. I really hope so. I really hope that the bravery of Xavier Poussard and what I am willing to stand up to inspires everyone around the world to understand that something very dark and something very demonic is going on. And we haven't even gotten into the story of Brigitte Macron, who Brigitte Macron actually is, what it is that Xavier Poussard uncovered about Brigitte Macron, why it is that Xavier Poussard, who has been in court trying to get documents from these people, and even when he wins the cases, still cannot get a photo released to him of Brigitte Macron, then Trogneau, at school in Amiens. We don't have school photos of the First Lady. We can't get our hands on it. Why Xavier Poussard cannot get his hands on Brigitte Macron's alleged brother, who I believe Brigitte Macron is, why we can't get our hands on Jean-Michel Trogneau's military records. It is utterly bonkers. And like I said, what I told you today is the tip of the iceberg. It is going to get so much darker and it's going to get so much deeper. And their involvement, again, in these regular themes of pedophilia, pederasty, incest, lies, and trying to thug people via courts. You will never stop seeing it. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that this has made it clear to the English-speaking world of why this is important. I am telling you that all across the world, we are beginning to wake up to this. And I certainly won't be the person that backs down from this fight. I think younger generations, we are ready for the old guard to step aside and to allow there to be true light in this world. All right, guys, I'm going to read some of your comments. I do want to first tell you, obviously, regarding those DDoS attacks, I know some of you guys are not able to get into your accounts. We're receiving updates. We should have this resolved in a couple of hours. We believe that when we initially announced this series, we said that it was only going to be on CandaceOwens.com. So they waited an hour before to start attacking the website. And we are going to fight back. We were able to see all of these DNS inquiries, a lot coming from France. And by the way, guys, if you want to support our work, I'm telling you, we are fully independent now. So please take a second to check out the new website. You can donate if you want to. You can sign up for a membership, which I hope you want to sign up for a membership and join our book club, all of these things that we have going on. And I also, before I get into your comments and see what you guys have to say, I want to thank American Financing, remind you guys that this is a tremendous time that the average person is finding it really difficult to pick up with monthly expenses. In most cases, there is little left at the end of the month to cover any extras. Most Americans are not getting a big raise. Expenses are up, and it is very hard to manage without using credit cards. So if you're a homeowner and you are frustrated with that cycle, I need you to make a 10-minute no obligation phone call today to my friends at American Financing. If you're carrying a credit card balance each month with the rates in the 20s or even the 30s, American Financing can show you how to put your hard-earned equity to work and get you out of debt. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are saving their customers an average of $800 a month. And if you get started today, you may not even have to make next month's mortgage payments. There are no upfront fees, so it will cost you nothing to find out how much you could be saving. So call American Financing today at 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210. Or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. That's americanfinancing.net/Owens today. All right, guys, let's get into some of your comments. Wow, we have 135,000 people that are watching live. That is incredible all across the world. To the French people, the French world, we will make sure that we put French subtitles on everything. We just can't do that during a live show. But of course, we will make sure that you guys are able to access this in case you are just French speaking, like I am just English speaking. I also, again, want to add here that part of this, like our interview with Xavier Poussard, will be put behind the paywall. We will use this weekend to understand how they managed the DDoS attack and make sure that we are better prepared for it next time. Okay, what do we have? And I also want to say, by the time I am done with this series, I am going to be calling out all of the absolute frauds in the media and the Western world who have worked to defend what they knew was a network of disgusting sexual crimes that were happening, that not a single media came to the aid when I was saying I'm trying to expose what's happening with Brigitte Macron, and rather they smeared me and they libeled me and they tried to pretend. I remember they said I was having postpartum psychosis. Okay. These people are a part of the state and they are trying very clearly to protect the state. Criminals. That's what I truly believe. People like Barry Weiss, formerly of the New York Times, pretending to start an independent free press, one of the first people who tried to use like Freudian jujitsu to make it seem like I was the one going crazy because I noticed some trends of pedophilia in France. Like how sick and disturbed does Barry Weiss have to be, the free press, okay, to defend this? Now that you have just even gotten the tip of the iceberg here, think about what she was willing to defend and what she wanted to destroy and ask yourself why that is. And she's not the only one. We're coming for all of them. By the time we are done with this series, there will be no more frauds left in media that you guys will not recognize and ignore. Sorry, it's a little bit of a rant. I got pretty fired up there thinking about how disturbing it is that we can't even agree on protecting children. Fiona Yellow writes, Happy Lunar New Year. Thank you so much for your hard work and your courage is admirable. Support from Hong Kong. Wow, that might actually be the furthest that we've gotten support from. I usually don't see China in here. Celine Chioino writes, just a donation. Thank you so much. Sarasota writes, these people are sick and have been hidden for too long. It's time to expose these demons. I couldn't agree with you more. N writes, Candace, you are doing the Lord's work. You have been ordained by Christ to bring the truth to the world. Christ is truth. Christ is king. This is what I mean when I say Christ is king. And this is why I just started screaming it even more so last year, because I realized that you can decide to sell your soul to the devil and it will be a cheap sale, and you can get up in the morning and you can do what you do and I guess not be destroyed or attacked in the media, or you can decide to fight on the side of Christ and fight to expose what is happening and potentially lose everything, but the everything that you lose is not real. None of that is real. None of that is substant. And to see now that the world and you guys really, who just kind of stood by me through it all and knew and saw how obvious their attacks were, I just couldn't thank you guys enough, truly from the bottom of my heart, from me and my team. Sandra Ticker writes, Candace is about to cook. It is always better to have questions that cannot be answered than to have answers that cannot be questioned, said a wise person. Thon writes, Candace the Fearless, thank you. BJE writes, 10 toes in, I love you and your strength, stand tall. Halcyon writes, I almost missed the live, for shame on me. Way to go, Lady C, we love you. Brian Schwartz writes, your show, Candace, is dramatically improving in leaps and bounds. Thank you so much. The Intelligent Observer, I gotta give it to you. You're a better Intel analyst than I ever was. Oh, were you an Intel analyst for who? Jason writes, hi, Candace. I have been watching you since your old solo YouTube days. I knew you were a real one from the start. I wanted to thank you and support your work. Keep it up. God bless you and your family. No, really, guys, thank you so much. And I know that there have been people who have been so concerned about like our safety and stuff. We did up on security for this time being after getting the letter from Macron, and because of the things that we know about their network and things that are happening, like I said, to every journalist that has tried to get this out. We are taking that seriously, but also know that at the end of the day, it's not in the security's hands, it is in God's hands. And so we just ask everybody, whether you believe or not, to just pray. I think we all sense this awakening worldwide. And what the Macrons were clearly afraid of was me presenting all of this to the public. And like I said, you should ask yourselves why this is the first time you've heard any of this, why this is the first time that you have heard this, but rather you heard all last year that I was like a crazy Adolf Hitler school shooting supporting. That's it. They go after the people that try to tell the truth, and they protect the people who have a lot to hide. And so again, I'm just asking, if you want to support our work, please head to CandaceOwens.com, sign up. You can just donate, but I would really encourage you to sign up. We're doing really great content. And like I said, on Monday, we will be dropping the interview with Xavier Poussard, and every single episode of this series is going to blow your mind. We're going to get into Emmanuel Macron's childhood, or non-existent childhood, the things that we know about his childhood, Brigitte Macron's non-existent childhood, the things that we know about her childhood, and you're really going to start to wonder what the hell is going on. Emphasis on the hell, sed libera nos a malo. We will see you guys on Monday.